You're listening to The Morning Buzz.
The Morning Buzz.
To the Morning Buzz.
The Morning Buzz on 90.3. 90.3.
90.3.
90.3 WMSC.
WMSC.
WMSC Upper Montclair.
Upper Montclair, New Jersey.
Say hello to the big, beautiful world. This is 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair with a Monday Morning Buzz. I am your host, Kyle Pepitone, joined with me today with my new second in command, Ryan Breyta. Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, Kyle. How about yourself?
I mean, I'm okay. My neck hurts a little bit, but other than that, I'm doing fine.
I feel that 100%, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must have slept on it wrong or something. I don't know what happened, but, that's what happens with age.
It's life, right?
Yeah, exactly. But we've got a great show coming up for you today. We've got a special interview in just a few minutes. But before we get right into that, we have Thomas Tarter here with our daily newscast. Thomas, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yes, sorry, I just blanked out there. I forgot to introduce myself. I am the newscaster.
Don't worry, you're all good. So, what's going on in the world today?
Oh, we have a lot going in the world, in our COVID bubble world today. All right, so first we have, according to AP News, the Biden administration has had to deal with challenges from the Republican legislators due to his plan to invest $2.3 trillion in infrastructure. This plan is mainly opposed by Republicans due to the plan to raise the corporate income tax rate to pay for these infrastructure improvements. The Republicans argue that jobs will leave the country and create an anti-business atmosphere. The Republican legislature is pushing for a $615 billion infrastructure package that would not raise the corporate income tax rate. According to AP News, many political leaders, such as former President Barack Obama, have spoken out against Georgia's new voting laws, which has resulted in the withdrawal of the MLB All-Star Game and the withdrawal of funds from Republican politicians. Many large corporations, although such as AT&T, have faced criticisms for not withdrawing funds from politicians in favor of these new voting laws. AT&T are being criticized for supporting the bill and also simply hoping that the issue will pass people's minds. In a statement, AT&T said that the right to vote is sacred. However, they declined to state whether or not they would withdraw funding from politicians in favor of the new voting laws. And finally, according to News 12 New Jersey, the eligibility to get the COVID vaccine has been expanded to people 55 years and older, higher education educators, communications field workers, real estate workers, and those 16 years and older with disabilities. Today, Governor Phil Murphy and First Lady Tammy Murphy plan to make their appointments today to get the COVID-19 vaccine. And your weather today is a high in Montclair is a high of 66 degrees and a low of 41 degrees. Now back to the guys in the studio for some sports and more stories.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Thomas. And moving right out of news and into sports, we have Matthew Bruchet, our resident sportscaster for the Monday Buzz. Matt, what's going on in the world of sports?
Good morning. Good morning. We had a wild weekend of sports in Montclair State. Here are some of the final scores that happened over the weekend. So we got men's soccer beat Ramapo College 2-0. The baseball team lost the doubleheader 1-6-2 and 4-5 against Ramapo. The women's lacrosse beat TCNJ 10-9. The women's basketball team lost 60-64 in the NJAC final, which is kind of disappointing. And the men's lacrosse team lost 21-12 against Stockton. Some games to look out for this week include the softball team taking on Rutgers Newark tomorrow in a doubleheader, and the women's lacrosse team taking on Kane University tomorrow. In professional sports, in the MLB, pitcher and hitter Shohei Ohtani last night started the game pitching and was batting second. He also became the first player in over a decade to hit a home run and to throw a pitch over 100 miles per hour. He later had to leave the game due to a collision, but a historic start for Ohtani. Also in the MLB, we saw the Yankees lost their series against the Blue Jays and start the season off 1-2, and will look to steer the ship right against the Orioles today. We have been starved of some New York Mets baseball due to the Nationals having some COVID issues, but today is the day. The Mets will have their first game of the season with DeGrom on the mound against the Philadelphia Phillies. The Nets and the NBA, the Nets, without star players Harden and Kevin Durant, last night took on the Chicago Bulls and lost 115-107. Tonight, the Knicks will be traveling all the way to Brooklyn to take on the Brooklyn Nets. And today, in sports history, in 1984, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar breaks Wilt Chamberlain's all-time scoring record of 31,419 points. As we know today, Kareem would finish with 7,000 more points and still holds the record to this day with 38,387 points. So send it back to you guys.
Nice. Thank you, Matt. And this time I actually understood a bit more of that than I normally would because thanks to you, were so gracious to kind of explain sports to me on my show that's upcoming this week, but that one's not out yet. What is happening right now is our special interview with a political journalist from the New York Post who has recently brought to light a ton of information surrounding the New York nursing home scandal that happened just about a year ago. Please welcome Bernadette Hogan. Bernadette, how are you doing?
Hello, I am good. Had to fix that one.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for coming in. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Another Monday, and Monday morning news, as you guys just went through, is always insane. So I'm just catching up as much as you guys.
Yep. So you have been a political journalist for quite some time now, and you graduated from Marist, I believe, correct?
I did. Yep. Marist College, Red Foxes.
Nice. I actually have a friend who goes there now, and he seems to like it, so
yeah,
must be
it's
good.
a fun place. It's a good spot.
So how was your journey from, like end of college to getting into the political journalist field and your time working as a journalist in for the New York Post and in Albany and all of that?
Yeah, right. So actually, in college, I didn't even think I was going to be a journalist, which, I mean, here I am now.
Right.
But I always loved reporting. I loved writing. And I was a member of our paper there, the Marist Circle. And sometime around senior year, I was like, who am I kidding? I have to be a reporter. I have to at least give it a shot. And I think like one of the reasons why I wasn't engaged with it prior was because I knew it was a grind, and I knew that the field is so volatile and it's touch and go and it's constant and all the time. And I even thought I was going to try to go to law school. But then, I mean, just working for the paper and just finding so much enjoyment and just being interested, I just was like, there's no way I can't even try. I can't try this. So when I graduated, I actually took an internship with New York One. I interned for 3 months with Inside City Hall, their political show, which was probably the best thing I could have done because I knew I wanted to be a political reporter. But in terms of deciding whether I wanted to go straight into a job, because obviously it's a competitive job market, I didn't know if I wanted to go into general assignment or just see if I could intern for such a great show and then kind of decide from there where I wanted to go. So I did that 3 months right out of the bat, started around June and I ended in August. And it was awesome because, I mean, New York City politics it's so intricate, but it also it's such a small world too. So it really gave me like a cool introduction. It was almost like an additional like schooling. It was like I was in grad school. It was great. And so then after that, I moved to Albany, and I moved to Albany because, again, that's state government, the legislature, that's where the governor is. And I did general news up in Albany and for Spectrum News, which was TV. So I was a producer, I was a field shooter. I kind of did everything, except I wasn't the reporter on air. And then I got really lucky because Capitol Tonight is their political show, and I was able to be a producer there out of the state capitol, which I work out of the state capitol now for the Post. And that was awesome because, I mean, you're young, you get out of college, you're 22, you have no idea what actual life is like afterwards. Yep. And it's tough because, you're a senior and you're like, I know what I want to do. I think I have good instincts, but you don't have enough experience to back it up yet. So it's a time when you're super anxious. You're kind of like lashing. I remember like my mom would call me and I'd be like, it's fine. Like, I know what I'm doing, but like, I was just so stressed out. So then, and then of course that like year right after graduating was just like a year of like pickup and everything. But I'm so glad that I had that opportunity because it totally helped me with what I'm doing now. So.
Very interesting. Yeah,
Mhm.
and all that anxiety is from even before COVID. Like you were in
Oh,
person and
yeah.
it was bad. I can't imagine it now. Well, actually I can because I'm living through it, but
Right, right. You guys have to deal with a whole different ball of wax. I really feel for you guys because I mean it's true, like college is great and like you need the tools to pursue whatever field you're going into, but also like you do need that balance of like a personal life and spending time with your friends and like
right.
a lot of that relationship building, again, even just with like your roommates and like the people you're hanging out with and taking class with, is what you're going to take into the real world.
Right.
Because I mean, what I do is I'm on the phone, I work with people one on one, and I used to be really shy. Like I couldn't even speak. I remember like if I had to speak in front of a class, I would freak out. I was so nervous. And then I have to get out of this because if this is a field I want to go into, communications, like talking to people and whatnot, I've got to get over this. So that part of college I think is really important. And you guys are definitely, you're going working through it. I can tell, but I mean, I feel for you guys.
Thank you.
Hi, Bernadette. Ryan Breyta here. So I think it's funny that you said you were afraid to speak in front of a class, and now you're speaking in front of the governor in the press conferences every day. One question I have for you is, what was the learning curve like, whether it's personally or as a journalist, like moving to Albany, learning the ways of the politics up there? Was that a challenge for you at all?
Oh, majorly, because again, like I said, I went to it with a basis of being interested in politics and government and whatnot. And that comes from, again, reading the news and reading history, studying that. But once you're in the mix, like being up in Albany, being in the state capitol, covering the legislature and the governor, you have to know there's just so much going on. So you have to know how to cut through the fat so that you don't lose your mind. And so you can stay focused on what is the news of the day and what's important. And like I said, I got really lucky because I was able to intern for an amazing political show, which gave me great tools to then go up to Albany. And that set the groundwork. And I was able to shadow reporters that would need a shooter. So, like, I would have my little camera and I would follow some of the reporters that would have a story at the Capitol. And I had I mean, the building is massive. So part of that learning curve was just even knowing which floor to be on to find the state senate, the assembly, or like even, where the entrances were and or where the governor does his briefings. So it's great because the reporters in Albany, like they really do help out the younger crew and the people that are not as used to being there. So I learned a ton from my colleagues who don't even work for the same paper outlet, just the same organization. And that was really helpful. So for what I'm doing now, just working up for roughly, like I would say, a year and a half, not with the Post, that totally built the groundwork because a lot of it is just seeing what other reporters are doing. I remember I would watch, I would be like, why are a bunch of my colleagues from other places running in this direction? And then you'd kind of follow along and then you'd see, oh, the Speaker of the State Assembly is doing an informal gavel. He's answering questions from reporters. And that was another learning curve too, because, you always have questions in your mind like, oh, I don't really know what this means. And I want to ask this, but I don't want to seem dumb, or maybe this is an irrelevant question. And once I started to listen to my colleagues asking questions, I'd be like, oh, I'm thinking the exact same thing. And then you kind of get a little bit more confident there. And a lot of that is just breaking through that barrier of just saying, okay, I'm not going to really care what anyone else thinks because at the end of the day, I have a job to do. And if I'm confused about this, there's no way that if I'm writing this, the readers are going to be any less confused.
Right.
So yeah, it was a really big learning curve because also it's like, you're a kid, you're 22, 23, and you're dealing with people that have been, they're elected officials, they're people in power. It's really intimidating, but you kind of just have to pretend that that doesn't bother you. So that's what I had to do. But of course, easier said than done sometimes.
I definitely could imagine because like I'm an animation major, so like I joined radio for fun, it wasn't my intended major, but who knows what can happen in the next year or 2 years. I might change it, and that would make our station manager Annabella very happy. But like for like these big stories, I would have no idea where to even like begin looking. And
Right.
how did you do that? Like this whole nursing home scandal thing, where did you begin looking for like information? Where did you know where to begin, or how did you know where to begin?
Right. Okay. So with nursing homes specifically, that story actually came from a reader, a New York Post reader, reaching out to us saying, hey, my mom is in a nursing home and this is a problem. So basically she looked at the guidance that the state had put out regarding the coronavirus and how the facilities, the specific nursing home, was going to be listening to that guidance and implementing it and how it would impact the residents. So she reached out to us, and that was a time back in, that was April. So March and April last year, 2020,
Right.
was just totally touch and go. So everything was changing. New policies were coming out, new guidance was coming out. The virus, you didn't know if it was going to just balloon all out of nowhere all at once, which I mean, it really totally picked up March, April. We got our first case in New York. What was it, March 1st? But
Yeah, somewhere around there.
And it had building up prior to then. So with the nursing homes, I mean, it kind of just, it was at first part of one of the developments in this this far larger tale. However, because it pertained to a specific population that we knew was already going to be hit, we could predict it was going to be hit harder because they're a vulnerable population, a lot older, and they're in congregate facilities, so they're closed off. Although you did have staff going in and out for work, which ended up contributing to a degree of the disease spread and whatnot.
Of course, yeah.
So that, I mean, it's so important because as journalists, you really are, you're a conduit to those that consume the news, the readers, and for them to make decisions. So having a reader reach out and notifying myself, other people at the Post, that this could be an issue or this was an issue, and to ask the governor about it was really helpful. And then it turned out, I remember I asked a question about it. The governor said he wasn't sure about the policy, and he consulted with the health commissioner, Dr. Howard Zucker. And then after that, the questions continued to come from there as well, because the state also was counting coronavirus deaths in nursing homes specifically. And there was problem getting the data out, which of course ended up being the subject of a lawsuit and a report by the Attorney General, and now the result of a federal investigation to a degree. So it became a story, one of the bigger stories of the pandemic, not only in New York, but also across the country. So
yeah, it's gotten a lot, like the development of this story has been really crazy, especially in recent, with all of like the numbers actually coming out, being underreported up to 50%, which is insane when you think about it. And then there's also this other scandal that came out against Cuomo that might be taking a little bit more of the spotlight, so to speak, like kind of overshadowing the nursing home scandal with the allegations against him and his mistreatment of women in the workplace. And so what do you like think of that? Do you believe like one scandal is overshadowing the other, or do you believe they stand on equal ground in terms of importance?
Right. No, I mean, that's a great question, because it's tough to weigh one problem with another, but I think the combination of the two really has just, it's created a firestorm, right? You have the undercounting of deaths,
right,
of thousands of seniors, and then you also have these very serious allegations of sexual harassment, misconduct, etc., of women that worked with the governor and then also did not. So it just creates a really interesting political and social environment, and it's spilled out of just the world of politics that New York can sometimes, and Albany can sometimes find itself closed in on, because now you have the entire state and also parts of the country. You have President Biden being his top staffers, his top aides, talking about it at the White House briefings. You also have other people across the country weighing in on it. So I don't think one trumps the other, but the combination is just, it brings a lot of clout and a lot of severity.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Especially with the multiple investigations that are ongoing
Right.
at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a good question. It's definitely something that I think about every day. Other reporters, other people, I mean, the people that are intricately involved in these investigations too, you know, it's constant.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Around this time last year, I don't know, you probably remember the briefings that Governor Cuomo had. The country wanted to watch them. It was like a must-watch television, right?
Yes.
The first question I have for you is, how do you think that dynamic has changed from the must-watch TV to now Governor Cuomo's just, people don't even want to watch him? And the second question is, in your article, part of the reason the Cuomo administration hid the nursing home data was because they didn't want to have President Trump use the numbers against him, right, as a political tactic. Why do you think the Cuomo administration cared more about Trump's response than being honest to the people of New York?
Right. So, like you said, those briefings were going on every day, and it started from March 1st through, and it was every single day pretty much through June, and then periodically from there. And I mean, it was must watch TV. Getting tongue tied. You had local stations and you had national stations taking those briefings, and then the governor would go on national TV to expound upon certain points and whatnot. Because again, I mean, some people were calling him America's governor. Because he was really putting himself out there at the forefront of this disease and its spread. And of course, eyes go to New York because New York is just, I mean, I'm biased because I'm from New York, but like people look to New York City and the state and whatnot. So, and of course, he was the one who was consistently doing these briefings. But now, as you said, there's been a change. The governor no longer does in-person briefings. He stopped doing that around the end of November, beginning December. They cited coronavirus social distancing concerns, 6 months after he had been doing it consistently. And now it's really become maybe a phone call, maybe a remote briefing where he probably only takes about 5 questions, and it's from a very limited pool of reporters, even though hundreds call in, and it's usually the same reporters that get questions. So it's changed from like this open view, everything out there, you're watching it, questions abound, and then now it's on the phone or remote, and it's limited questions. And part of that is because the criticism with the nursing home scandal, and then also the multiple allegations of sexual harassment and the investigations that have come from that. And then your other question was about why the state feared retribution from the federal government, correct?
Yes.
So that's an interesting one because, I mean, Donald Trump was elected in 2016, and of course, a Republican, and Governor Cuomo's a Democrat, and both from New York, which brings another layer into this. And ever since then, the governor had an animosity, a combative relationship with the president, but also, he would go down to Washington, he would have calls with the White House, just depending on New York's needs or what specifically was going to impact New York. And during the pandemic specifically, because New York was hit first and hardest, I mean, we still have, according to Johns Hopkins, we have over 50,000 deaths, presumed and confirmed COVID in New York alone. So, I mean, our death rate has been massive. So President Trump, the White House, they were looking at New York. I mean, we got the USNS Comfort ship. We had a lot of assistance from other federal entities coming in to assist with field hospitals and whatnot. So the governor and the president were working together quite a bit right at the beginning. But then it sort of started to spiral, and just in natural negotiations between Washington and New York. But the nursing home issue really became a sticking point because, you had this group of deaths that data was few and far between, or it was just difficult to get. And the Trump administration's Department of Justice launched an inquiry, a series of questions that they sent to the Cuomo administration, end of summer, early fall of last year. And in later, I guess, reporting information that came to light recently over the past 2-3 months, Cuomo officials said, look, we feared that those inquiries from the Trump administration were more politically motivated because of course, the Republican administration, the Democratic administration, they were always at odds. And so the Cuomo administration said, we feared that this was just a political attack on us and what we were doing. So we didn't know what to give them, essentially. So, but now, that we're under a Democratic administration with President Biden, and the questions are still coming. So the idea that this is a political attack has kind of balanced out of it because you have Democrat on Democrat. And also, of course, Governor Cuomo has been a Biden fan for a while. And, he appeared at, it was a video for President Biden's inauguration. He, of course, has been supportive of him throughout the election cycle, et cetera. So now you've just got a different playing field because you no longer have this alleged antagonism between Republicans and Democrats. You have Democrats and Democrats. Right. So that's kind of the state of play here at the moment.
Yeah, it's a lot of members from Cuomo's own party have come out against him because of the nursing homes and the sexual harassment allegations. And despite all of this, Cuomo himself has gone on record and say, I have no intention to resign. If they wanted me out, they're going to have to impeach me or force me out, which I know nothing about politics. So I don't know if that's probably the best response he could have given, but since his own party is now turning against him and he's still adamant about not stepping down, what do you think is in store for him in the future? Because he's even said he will go for re-election. So do you think that's even a possibility for the near future?
Right. No, you brought up an important point, how it's people from his own party, members of his own party, high profile members. You have Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand. You have the leader of the state Senate, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and Speaker Carl Hastie. He's given his blessing for the state assembly Judiciary Committee to launch an impeachment investigation because members are really upset by, and of course they represent constituents that are also upset by these allegations of sexual harassment, the handling of the nursing homes during COVID, especially and other topics as well. So I don't know. The future is uncertain. We have to find out what the state attorney general's office, what their investigation into allegations of sexual harassment against the governor, what that finds. And we don't really have a timeline as to when that will wrap up, although it's expected to be sooner than later, and sooner could mean, that could mean the start of the summer. It's April now, but they're trying to move fast. They've been conducting interviews, et cetera. And then the Assembly's impeachment probe, that's a little bit more complicated because we've been told that could take months. The lawmakers who are heading that investigation say months because they're also exploring a wider playing field, not just limited to allegations of sexual harassment, but a bunch of other things, which has gotten criticism because critics say if there's urgency to get the governor to either resign or be impeached, and obviously in that case to be impeached, why would we broaden this investigation so that there's so much to go through? So then the decision is just further kicked down the road. But at the end of the day, the governor also has said he won't resign or step aside at the moment because the state budget is being finalized and negotiated. And their view is that that would bring too much chaos. And then also he has said that he never touched anyone inappropriately and he apologized if he ever made anybody feel uncomfortable. He's said that during questions that he's taken over the past couple of weeks. But a lot of those answers are not good enough for lawmakers and people that were directly impacted by the governor's policies or actions. So in terms of a fourth term, I think that's too far away at this moment. We have to see what the Attorney General's office finds, what the state assembly decides to do, and then we'll go from there.
Right.
Yeah.
Bernadette,
lots to unpack.
yeah, honestly. You said earlier that the governor now takes about 5 questions from the press.
Mhm.
The first thing is, has he been taking your questions from the briefings? And if not, have you tried to interview the governor one-on-one? Have you tried to get him to maybe tell his side a little bit? Has he had a little bit like angst towards like the Post at all? What has that been like the past few months?
Right. So once the governor went remote with the briefings, again, the November, December area, I myself, I've gotten 2 questions and a colleague has gotten 1. So the Post in total has gotten 3 questions during these briefings, which obviously there should be more equity there, not just for my sake, but also for other reporters at other outlets. There should be a balance of different outlets and mediums, radio, TV, print, getting questions in. In terms of impacting coverage, I mean, where one door closes, a window opens. So you just have to work with what you've been given. Every story that I write that has to do with the governor, you have to reach out for comment. And if you don't, that's on you. That's not fair. You always need to give the other side, or whatever. If you mention someone's name or you're reporting on one end and then you don't reach out for comment for the other, that's not fair. So you of course need to do that. And I mean, in terms of interviewing one-on-one, I mean, like I said, like you reach out to the people that represent him for comment and question. That's how a lot of, I mean, COVID aside, everything that's going on aside, that's a lot of how you do this reporting. A lot of the times the governor's not going to be responding to you one-on-one and doing interviews, et cetera. It's a lot of his people that like work the mechanics out and make that happen. So that's an important part of this. But the Post, I mean, the governor has said during briefings that, he'll and other outlets too, they won't like some reporting and whatnot, but that's all it's all the nature of the job. And the governor reads the Post coverage as well as other outlets coverage, and whether or not they, what's important is that you give them the opportunity to comment, and then also of course you're reporting on the facts and you're sticking to accuracy. So it's kind of it's touch and go a lot of the times.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier that someone from the Post, like a reader of the Post, gave you this tip of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone from the public reached out to you when you released a story, whether they lost someone in a nursing home, to thank you for reporting on the nursing home story?
Yeah. So, I mean, whether it's reaching out or family members that I've reached out to, maybe I've seen a post or I've seen them interviewed someplace else, I'll reach out to them too. And again, like it's just such a heavy concept. It's very difficult to these people are grieving. And so just having them talk to me and tell their story and feeling comfortable enough to talk to me as a reporter, as somebody who can ask questions and maybe provide some clarity to their situation is super important. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's me thanking them for saying, for bringing this to light, and then also continuing to talk to me and other reporters because it's such an important story and it's close to their heart. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, with the crazy world that politics in general and journalism is at this point, with just political unrest going on and the whole like social distancing COVID stuff, talking to like people or student journalists who want to get into this field, what is like the biggest piece of advice you have for them? Like, what direction should they head in? What should they be looking out for as they come to the end of their college career to start their for lack of a better word, real world career?
Right. So one thing that I did that I'm so thankful I did was I talked to either journalism professors or those connections that I already had, which of course you're a student, so they're limited. And I said, listen, I obviously want to work in this field, but I don't even know where to start. Is there anybody that you could send me to that I could just talk to, have a cup of coffee with, and just like get a sense for what they do? And that was really helpful for me. I had a Lee Marengoff, who runs the Marist poll. I went to him and I said that, and he connected me with a couple working journalists who were kind enough to either meet with me or jump on the phone. And that just really broadens your viewpoint and your horizon, because again, like everybody's day is different. Everybody's job and specific beat is different. And so I would just say network as much as you can, because even if you have like 50 leads, 50 people that you talk to and you have no job offers and whatnot, that's not the point. The point is that you're expanding your viewpoint and your horizon and where you can maybe see yourself doing it, because you might end up not liking what you think you wanted to go into, right? Like I interned for 3 months and I could have 100% not liked it and been like, this is like not as interesting as I thought, or this is like maybe not the direction I want to go in. So you just need to put yourself out there and just network as much as you can. Like ask your parents if any of the kids they went to, well, I guess adults that they went to college with, if they have any connections and whatnot, and just talk to people. That's I think would be the biggest advice. And then also just keep pushing, keep looking, because it's a really competitive industry, but the payout is so, like once you land something, it's just so gratifying, and you want to work hard at it. But just keep trying, and just again use the connections, reach out to people as much as you can, because you never know when people are willing to help and they're willing to give advice, and that's like sometimes all you need, truly. So yeah, just keep reaching out to people.
That makes sense. Well, thank you for that. And as we're winding down to the end, thank you so much for taking this time to sit here and talk with us about this. I think it went very well. I think people are very adamant to hear about this, especially since more and more information is coming to light.
Thanks. No, you guys do a great job, and you seem very comfortable, and you've asked great questions, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Great.
Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
And right now we're going to jump into a short break, and when we come back, we are going to be talking more about the COVID vaccine, UK eye testing, passports, and a bunch of other stuff here on 90.3 WMSC, the voice of Montclair State.
Mom, are you eating a yogurt while you're driving? You need both hands on the wheel.
I need to get the most important meal of the day.
Mom, since when do you have a TikTok? How are you making a TikTok while you're driving? You're driving with your knees.
Renegade, we going viral.
Wait, are you getting attacked? When did he get in the car?
Hey.
When did he get in here?
This is
There's
Doug.
no outlet.
He's a professional, so it's okay. Doug, we should go out.
Are you on a date in the car? When did a table get in the back seat?
We've always had this.
We're on the road.
So, you got any kids?
I'm right here.
No.
I can't believe this.
It's not just your life on the line when you're driving with your kids. It's theirs and Doug's. Put the distractions away and keep both eyes on the road.
Bird up.
Team Rocky is our mascot group on campus, made up of a bunch of different student leaders, both Rocky and handlers. And our main goal is to spread Red Hook pride, positive vibes, and just make people smile on campus, off campus, and through our social media presence. You can follow along with Rocky on all platforms: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, you name it. And you can also follow Rocky on YouTube at Red Hawk Life to follow along with some really fun videos, including but not limited to Rocky on the Street.
And welcome back to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair and the Monday Morning Buzz. I am Kyle Pepitone, joined with my co-host and newscaster, Ryan Breyta and Thomas Tartar.
And me, Hi.
Yeah, that could have gone better. Probably should have said title, name, but my bad.
It happens.
Anyway. Oh, yeah. But another thank you to Bernadette Hogan for joining us for the interview. She is no longer with us in the Zoom call, but if she's still listening, thank you so much once again for taking the time to do that with us. But we have some other stories to move into now regarding COVID, specifically the vaccine. Our number one story today, according to NPR, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine has gained full oversight of the production of the vaccine over at the, what was it called? It was the Emergent Biosolutions facility in Baltimore. Recently, after a mishap that rendered millions of COVID vaccines ineffective due to a mix-up in the ingredients between the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and the AstraZeneca vaccine that was both being produced by this facility. Joe Biden and his administration has given Johnson & Johnson full oversight of that said facility. So, in other words, this facility, Emergent Biosolutions, was making ingredients for both the AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson vaccine. But there was a bit of a mix-up in which the AstraZeneca ingredients went to the Johnson & Johnson one and vice versa, which in turn basically nullified an entire batch of vaccines, up to, I believe, 15 million doses. That is what the article said. And now full oversight has gone to Johnson & Johnson, meaning the the ingredients for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and that vaccine only will be produced at this facility, while AstraZeneca ingredients will be produced somewhere else. As of right now, nothing, the FDA has approved nothing from this facility. So it's just making it now, and they are working on approval to distribute vaccines made at this facility. So overall, it's unfortunate that we lost so many vaccines, but it's good that through the quality or the rigorous quality check that they gone through, that they were able to understand, they were able to catch these false vaccines. That way they didn't go out, and now they're working on making up for it by not toning down the work, but focusing more on one vaccine rather than trying to split the difference with both.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was definitely a major embarrassment for Johnson & Johnson to have that story come out saying, you know, the 15 million doses were mixed up, you know. So I think Johnson & Johnson overseeing what is happening with the vaccinations are definitely beneficial, especially when we're trying to get the whole country vaccinated. So I think that's definitely a good thing. I mean, I just, when I saw that headline last week, I was like, how did we reach this point? You know, like, how did this happen? But I'm glad changes should be happening now, you know.
And it's most likely going to set us back a few, because if you remember, the Biden administration promised that everybody would be eligible for his vaccine by the end of May. And being eligible is great, but if you don't have enough vaccines, that's going to cause some problems. And I feel a 15 million useless doses of vaccine constitutes as a problem that might push back it might not push back the eligibility date, but it's going to definitely take a lot longer to get everybody vaccinated, because now you're 15 million doses in a hole, and that is now 15 million who have to wait for their dose of the vaccine to come out. But I think the bright side of this is that since the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is only a single dose vaccine that can also be stored at much more regular temperatures than some of the other ones, I don't think this would be as much of a setback as, say, a 2-dose vaccine. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, my thing is, at least they weren't sent out, because that would have been a nightmare. Can you imagine that? That would have been a literal nightmare.
Yeah. Because instead of having all the nullified ones or deficient ones in one place, you have to go out and track them. Okay, 4 million went here, 30,000 went here, and you have to now get all of those back. But like I said, luckily for the mishap, nothing was approved by the FDA yet, so I don't think they were going out soon enough that could have been a problem. But otherwise, they're 15 million in a hole currently, but they fixed the problem. And Emergent has also released a statement saying, quote, "There are rigorous quality checks throughout our vaccine manufacturing process. And though these checks in a single batch of the drug substance was identified that did not meet specifications and our rigorous quality standards, discarding a batch of the bulk drug substance, while disappointing, does occasionally happen during vaccine manufacturing, which is a complex and multi-step biological process," end quote.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that, like, I'm on the list for the vaccine, and like you're seeing stories like that sometimes with like the effectiveness of Johnson and Johnson. So I'm on the list and everything, but like I'm not 100% if I want to, because like we don't really have enough doses yet of the 2 shot, and the 1 shot's being shown as like not that effective. But like once like we perfect the vaccine, I think New Jersey is in an advantage because of like our booming healthcare industry. We have like a lot of high quality hospitals, and my like up here by Montclair, we have a couple of high quality hospitals in like that Jersey City, like Hoboken section. And also like by me, we have like Robert Wood Johnson in New Brunswick, which is pretty good as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, speaking of vaccines, let's look at what's happening in the UK. As the UK looks to go back to normal, the UK eyes testing COVID-19 passports at mass gatherings. This is from AP News. So Britain's going to try to use many measures to try and get back to normal, to have mass gatherings. They're going to include COVID-19 testing before and after events. They're going to place social distancing measures and testing the ventilation levels in places holding the mass gatherings. In regards to the COVID-19 passports, they're expected to show if a person has received the COVID vaccine, has recently received a negative test for COVID, and had some immunity due to having coronavirus antibodies. Boris Johnson said in a quote, "We are doing everything we can to enable the reopening of our country so people can return to the events, travel, and other things they love as safely as possible. And these reviews will play an important role in allowing this to happen." COVID-19 passports has been a huge thing lately, on whether it's on social media, things like that. You know what I mean? Look, if you're able to get vaccinated and we're able to get back to normal life, I don't mind hanging a COVID passport saying I got the vaccine. If I'm able to do the things I was able to do last year or even before last year, I don't care if I carry a vaccine passport, and it's the fact it's a public health crisis, because if someone doesn't have the vaccine, or let's say someone tests positive and someone goes to a mass gathering, that's just a whole other issue, right? That's a mass spreader event. So it's just, I don't know how, some people might feel differently, but I think vaccine passports could be a thing of the future, especially for the first few years after the pandemic. Right. But it's definitely it's something that's going to be talked about a lot because it's very controversial. We saw in Florida too that, Ron DeSantis banned the use of vaccine passports. So it's definitely going to be talked about a lot.
I mean, out of all the things, if you already have the vaccine, I think carrying a card saying I got the vaccine, obviously paraphrasing there, but I feel like that's the least of it. Like that is, I don't think anybody who has gone out and got the vaccine would be like opposed to something like this. Like, I got the vaccine, but I'm not going to carry a card. That's a breach of privacy. I'm like, but like the thing, like nowadays, basically everybody who's got the vaccine is waving a banner around saying I got it. So what's that if a tiny more little card? But I definitely think that this is a good way to go. Like, instead of like, I don't know, what would be the alternative? Filling out a new form every time saying, hey, have you tested negative? Have you got the vaccine? I think this is probably a step in the right direction if I'm understanding this story correctly.
I mean, look, the only issue people are having, Boris Johnson, according to the AP, Boris Johnson is going to be coming out with more information today regarding the vaccine passports. The main issue people in Britain are having is that they say it's a dynamic between the poor and upper class, of showing the vaccine passport, because some people don't have access to digital accessibility. So that's the only thing I see that's a problem here. And, in the United States, it's a problem of conspiracy theories and QAnon. So that is a hot topic. But at this show, we do like to have a lot of hot takes. And we do have Emma Coughlin here. So Emma, hello. How are you?
What a transition.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks.
So what hot takes do you have for us today?
All right. So I want to start off today by talking about somebody who I think we all know, Cher. It's just Cher. She's an icon to the world, so she doesn't need a last name. Good for her. She is a 74-year-old singer. She was really popular in the 70s. I think her most recent like big thing was like the Mamma Mia movie. She did a cameo in that. That was great. Huge Mamma Mia fan, so that was awesome. But 2 days ago, she tweeted something that was a little bit controversial, a little bit tone deaf. And it was concerning the George Floyd case, which is an ongoing trial against Derek Chauvin, which is the police officer who now on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes. And that's been a really difficult thing to sort of watch and see. And we don't know what's happening yet or what the outcome is going to be, but hopefully it all works out. But anyway, she tweeted on April 3rd, quote, wrestled with this tweet because I thought some people wouldn't understand or believe an entertainer could have honest emotions about a human being suffering and dying, even if it's only shown on TV. You don't know what I've done, who I am, or what I believe. I can, I have, and I will help. So basically what that translates to is that she's saying that if she was there, she would have done something to help George Floyd if she witnessed that happening. Which a lot of people are calling her like, oh, you're trying to be a white savior, all that, which is a thing that we talked about a few weeks ago. But I think the bigger issue with it is it's not about her. It's not about anybody. It's something that's much bigger than the individual person. And she did apologize. Later, she said, I just got off the phone with my friend Karen, told her what happened, and realized you can get people upset and hurt them by not knowing everything. That's not appropriate to say. I know people apologize when they're in a jam, but to God, I'm truly sorry if I upset anyone in the Black community. I know my heart. The other interesting thing is the way she tweets. It's kind of like she's texting in like 2007 with the old flip phones. I mean, the Black community is spelled BLK community. So not really sure what that's about, but it just makes the whole thing super odd and strange.
Impersonal almost.
Yeah, it does. And I think, like I said, she's like 70 years old. So that might just be how she tweets. I think it is how she tweets, and that's just because she's older. But yeah, it comes off a little insincere, and it really sort of dives into that whole problem of like how celebrities really should be handling issues like this, what they should be saying. And it is tough when you're in the spotlight like that. But I would say that's not really the best way to handle it, is say like, oh, if I was there, I'm going to help.
Yeah, I think a lot of celebrities, and this is like nothing like against them, but I feel like that fame and that attention can give people a very warped sense of reality. And then this is how you get things like this, where they're not exactly in touch with like how the general population thinks. They've got this, like, it's not completely different. Like, they don't think everything is all sunshine and rainbows, but they have this slightly tweaked vision that they don't mind. They might not realize it, but it's not on par with like the masses almost.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's very similar, but there's that like one tweaked detail that makes this, like, where you get something like this that seems a little insincere.
Yeah, they don't fully get it. And I mean, it's not just celebrities, it's everyday people too. I mean, I think a lot of issues like this, it's hard to understand that it's not about the individual, it's about like society as a whole. And yes, obviously we need to do everything we can on an individual level, but it's not about you, it's about everyone. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, she apologized. I hope that apology was sincere. And yeah, hopefully she's learned something from this. I don't really know how we'll be able to tell if she'll ever tweet about this again, but I guess we'll see.
I wish she had publicists. I mean, and if she did have a publicist, if her publicist tweeted that, I mean, that should be an instant fine or something. Yeah, I mean, like Kyle and like what you said, Emma, it's just it's kind of incomprehensible about what, like, think before you tweet. I think we've been on Twitter enough. I mean, we saw the last 4 years with the last president, how he used to tweet, things like that. I think we're kind of used to like Twitter banter, but yeah, I don't even know what to say about it anymore.
Yeah. It's a very interesting, like just the way she tweets is interesting, especially with a subject like this. You don't really want to use casual texting lingo on an issue that is deemed this serious. Like my biggest thing about the way she tweeted it, like I don't understand why you would abbreviate the shorter words in the sentence, but that's just me. Like she abbreviated black instead of, like I would have wrote out the word black and then abbreviated like community or something just because it's a longer word. And then, she even abbreviated the word tweet, which I didn't really understand. And I know that's not the main point of this story, but if we're talking about like the sincerity of a message and how it's written and how it is meant to convey emotion, I think the grammar, for lack of a better word, that she uses is not congruent with the subject matter.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, it's hard. Like I'm going back and forth because it does seem really insincere, but at the same time, I think that's just sort of how she tweets. I'm actually going to share my screen and we can look at the tweet. This article is from the Today Show, just so we can sort of see. The other weird thing about it too, again, this might just be the way she tweets, but like there's some very random capitalizations and commas and all this stuff. So I think it might just be her age. Because again, she's 74 years old, which I know isn't an excuse for a lot of things, but in terms of her tweeting style, I think that that's a valid excuse to, Twitter hasn't even been around for like 25% of her life. So, I mean, it makes sense.
But for those of you watching, you can see, those of you watching on Facebook or YouTube later, you can see the tweet up on the screen now. And it's, the way I called it, I said it's almost like hieroglyphics because you can understand the general message, but like there's abbreviations, random capitalizations, like you said, Emma, just emojis and commas thrown in places where they don't belong. Like at the end, I can understand where in the other tweet that she wrote, where she's like, I can and I will help. That capitalization makes sense.
Yeah.
But everywhere else, it's kind of up in the air. Like I know there are some people who type capitalizing every letter, but usually it's a consistent thing they do. They'll do it for every letter or every word in the sentence. But here, like believe, like I'll read this part. Or believe an entertainer could have honest emotions. The words or believe entertainer could and honest are capitalized.
And leaving.
Yeah, exactly. And have emotions about a human are not. It's almost like she flipped a coin saying, what word should I capitalize?
Yeah. I also just noticed in the second tweet, anyone, the A and the O in the word are both capitalized.
Right.
You notice not appropriate is in quotes, like not hurt them by not knowing everything that's quote not appropriate to say.
Yeah.
Dear. Oh. Oof.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a weird one to put in quotes. Like I can understand like she's like maybe like paraphrasing someone like, oh, this has been deemed not appropriate as this person said. But in a tweet, it comes off as, how you would normally use air quotes when I'm saying this, but I don't mean it.
Yeah. Not a good look, Cher. But yeah. I mean, that's what that takes for today. Thanks for listening, guys. And thanks for the great introduction, Ryan.
Oh, of course, Emma. I mean, hopefully Cher could turn back time with that tweet. But
oh my God. And with that brings us to the end of the Monday edition of the Morning Buzz with your slightly new crew. Me, your host, Kyle Pepitone.
Ryan Breyta, the co-host.
Our newscaster. Sorry. Say that one more time, Thomas. I cut you off.
I'm the newscaster. I'm Thomas Strutter. How are you all guys?
And McCaughlin.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This is 90.3 WMSC. If you're interested, you can tune in to the Morning Buzz every weekday, 8 to 9 p.m. with new hosts and new stories. Have a awesome day, everybody, and we will see you all next week.
Stay safe, everyone.